Hey guys, this is Dave from the Character Animator team, and today I wanted to walk through some really common issues that I've seen pop up on Twitter, on YouTube, on the official Character Animator forums, and kind of walk through some of these issues and questions people have to give a video example of how to do them. So we'll start off with showing how to take a Character Animator puppet and overlay it on top of a video game stream on Twitch. Pretty cool stuff. Then I'll walk through a couple of user examples, some characters, a PSD and an AI file that users sent in and had some issues with heads becoming detached and dragging looking weird and meshes bending in weird ways. And I'm going to walk through those and troubleshoot them and fix those issues, and hopefully it'll help explain some really common issues that we see with puppets. And then finally, I'm just going to make a puppet out of Photoshop from scratch using some of the new Preview 4 tools and tricks that we've added in there. And so just walk through it. It takes less than 10 minutes to kind of get a puppet up and running from scratch. So hopefully it's helpful to you guys, and here we go. In the latest Preview 4 release, Character Animator added siphon support on macOS 10, which means you can stream out anything in Character Animator into any application that includes siphon functionality. So this opens up several creative possibilities, including overlaying a custom character you've created on a Twitch stream. As a general guide, here's the way I did it, but every system and setup is going to be a little different, so your mileage may vary. So I use a MacBook Pro, and into this I connected my headphones, my USB microphone, and an Xbox One controller using a micro USB cable. Then there's a bunch of software I needed. Obviously one of those is Adobe After Effects, which is what Character Animator Preview 4 comes with. And then to stream, I downloaded OBS Studio, which is a popular free streaming tool. And to get the Xbox controller working, I installed a driver called 360 Controller, and you can find the link in the video description below. And to get all my audio working properly, I had to download and install Soundflower and Soundflower Bed. And then basically I made these special versions of Puppet. So they're holding, a controller, they have a headset, and then they have some cycle layers animations that switch automatically between different eye positions or controller, toggles or that sort of thing. And then you just give things a blank background. So make sure, there's nothing back here. It doesn't matter what background color you have, just that there's no artwork behind the character. And then that's something that you can stream out. You don't have to do anything. There's no extra step or anything. Just leave Character Animator running in the background. Okay, so then in OBS, your character shows up here. If you need to add an extra source, just go to Game Capture Siphon, and that will be the source. And once you do that, let me go to Settings here to show you what I did. You've got your character here, and you want to check Allow Transparency, and that means it'll come through with the transparent background intact. And then you can move them around, move the background around, resize your character as need be to make them bigger or smaller, whatever order you want. And then there you go. Now Siphon is video only, so you're going to have to do the audio separately. So make sure to go to Settings. Inside the audio group, you'll see what your audio devices are. So you should see your microphone or Soundflower if you're using that to bring in game audio. Now I also had to do some manual delays, and the way I did that was go to the mixer here and then did some tests on what the offset was. So these could be positive or negative numbers, and you can just test it. So just do a test run of you playing the game and talking, and then you can record with this little start recording, and that'll record a local FLV file, which you can then play back and see if everything's synced up. So before you go live, I might do that 3 or 4 times to test and tweak those sync values to get the audio just perfect. But yeah, then there you go. You've got a character that's going to move and talk and look around as you play a game in the background. So it's a really fun, cool, new, different way to do Twitch commentary. All right, so we're going to take a closer look at a user-created character. This came to us from Bradley Hughes via the Character Animator official forums. And he was running into a lot of issues with this character. Mr. G is this character's name. And Mr. G it has a few issues, and hopefully if we walk through them and troubleshoot them, these may be some issues that you're facing with your own characters as well, and this will help you identify and fix those. So I notice as I move my head around, just the head is moving. The body isn't moving at all, so something doesn't feel connected there. One of the ears and the hat is kind of doing this weird warping thing. And then the chain isn't moving and dangling as you would expect around his neck. And then the weirdest thing, though, is when I drag the hands, they're becoming dismembered, and it's also dragging other parts of the mesh with it and leading to some really weird stuff. So Mr. G is not looking so hot right here. So let's go into Photoshop and see if we can fix him. So I'm going to go to the project panel over here, and with the Mr. G puppet selected, I'm going to press Command E or Command E on Mac or Control E on Windows, and that's going to open up the original Photoshop source file. So let's take a closer look at that. Okay, so the first thing I noticed here is that the body is actually outside of our main Mr. G group here. So what we recommend is you have your primary group, you name it your character, and you put a plus in front of it to make it independent, be able to move on its own. And then you have the head and body inside there. Well, with this character, the body is outside of the group, and so if I just move it in here, now it's all going to be a part of one group. And that is the reason that the body was not moving with the head, was because it was not in this group structure. So any character you make, this is the recommended structure we have, plus your character's name at the top, and then the head and the body inside that group. I'm going to delete this origin here. In the past, we've told you to use the pen tool, make it a shape, and make a little minuscule point here to create a origin handle. But now in Character Animator Preview 4, the origin point just shows up within Character Animator. You can move and edit and do it all within there. So we now don't recommend you add origin, draggable, dangle, all these handles that you used to have to do this way with the pen tool. We recommend doing that all inside Character Animator now, just because Photoshop is not suited for character rigging. It's more the character creation process, and so we recommend now doing all that stuff within Character Animator. Okay, so moving through here, one of the things that I noticed was how many pluses that Bradley has added to Mr. G here. So you notice plus lid, plus right pupil, plus right eyeball, plus face skin. And plus, remember, is what you put when you want something to be independent. And the best example of that, I'd say, is the pupils or the eyebrows. You don't want, you want your pupils and eyebrows to move with your head as your head is moving around, but then you want them to be able to move independently on their own as well. So you want to be able to move, look left and right, have your pupils move left to right, or have your eyebrows move up and down. And so in those cases, eyebrow and pupil plus is great to use. But for a lot of this other stuff, it's not 100% necessary. And in fact, sometimes it's going to lead to some adverse effects. So what I would say is get rid of all of these extra pluses. The best way to start is take the pluses out and only add them in if things really feel like they're going wrong. So all these things, neck doesn't need one. If I go down here into the body, the neck skin I don't need, and then the hands, he had these hand folders that he called draggable. I'm going to take draggable out of that because I want to add the draggables and sticks and stuff like that actually inside Character Animator now. And then all these hands had all these independent stuff added to them as well. And so that's the reason that I think the hands were being dismembered when you were dragging them, because they're independent. And so it feels like, Bradley kind of went independent overload on this character and said, I'm just going to add a plus in front of all these things to move them. When in reality, he probably would have been better off not adding, kind of starting with very little and not adding as many pluses. So I deleted maybe 12 pluses from here, I think, and I think that's going to do it. And that's going to look a lot better. So the only pluses I would recommend that you have to do are the plus for the main character name, and then inside the head group for each of your eyebrows, right eyebrow and left eyebrow, and then for your pupils, right pupil and left pupil. And I should delete these last two ones here. So let's take a quick look back in Character Animator and see if that helps at all. All right, so already I can tell that he's doing a little bit better. Let's go into the puppet panel, double click on our puppet over here, and I'm gonna just select the body layer and fix his feet down by selecting the pen tool and doing fixed and fixed. And now his body should move with his head a little bit better. Now he's moving a little slow, and I think this is because of the way that he set up the dangle points for the hair and the medallion. So let's try to do that a little bit better, going back to Photoshop. All right, so the first part was the hair, and he's got a layer here called hair dangle, and that's basically his hair group, and he added dangle as part of the name. What I would recommend for anything you want to dangle, you want to make that its own independent group, and you don't want to include the word dangle in it. So I'm going to make another group here. I'm going to call that hair. Actually, I want to call that plus hair to make sure it's independent. I'm going to drag this hair layer inside of here, and then I'll rig the dangling within Character Animator in just a second. Now, moving back to the chain down here, something interesting is that the chain and the neck, all of this is included currently inside the head group. And instead, I think I want to move that into the body. I think I only want the head to be my head and not these other things. So I'm going to call this chain, and I'm going to move chain in this background and the neck all into this group. And I will remove dangle from chain, and I will add a plus here to make a independent group for just the chain. So all this chain stuff now is its own independent group. I think now this is going to allow me to do the dangle that I want to within Character Animator. So let's go back. Okay, so inside the puppet panel here, just by double clicking the puppet icon, I am going to go to this hair group, which is now warp independent. And I am going to move the origin point. Remember I was talking about origin points before. Well, now this little line here with the kind of the dotted line treatment is the origin point. So I want that to be kind of where the hair would attach to the head. So I'm going to drag it there. And then I'm going to create actually 3 dangle points. So I'm going to do the dangle tool, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 on the ends of each of these hair strands. Down with the chain, I'm going to select that and zoom out a little bit. I'm going to move the chain up here and put 1 dangle point onto the medallion. Let's take a quick look and see how this is looking. I don't think that this is going to be perfect yet. Okay, so that's looking a little better, but I'm not seeing too much dangle happening right here. So I'm going to go to dangle, drag it down, and change the spring stiffness to something like 50. And you'll immediately notice kind of that bounce, and that both the hair up here and then the dangle around the necklace is doing better. Now, one thing that's looking weird, you'll notice that the neck is the head is becoming detached from the neck now. And that's because the neck is kind of being allowed to freely move around. And what we want to do is kind of weld that to the rest of the body. And this is a new tool that we added in Preview 4 called stapling. And stapling really helps a lot. When something is moving or warping out of place and you don't really know what's going on, try stapling it. So there's a couple ways that I could do a staple. With whatever I want to staple selected, I could either use the staple tool down here, just click this icon and staple a particular position, or I can go to Puppet Staple Parent, Staple Puppet to Parent. I'm going to do it with the staple tool just to show exactly what that does. So I stapled in a particular location, which right now is the neck. That's kind of where I want things anchored and welded. And then if you notice on the body now, that's created a new handle for me called chain staple. And that's basically the attach point that chain is going to attach to. So if I have this selected, chain, notice over here, it's created already for me automatically attached to chain staple, that point that was automatically made, and then attach style is set by default to weld. So let's go back into our character now, and we should notice the neck is welded now to the rest of the body, and this is looking a lot better. So stapling can really help a lot with these sort of things moving off the beaten path type of thing, characters looking wonky. Staple parts to each other, and it can help a lot, particularly independent parts. Stapling things, stapling independent hair strands, stapling independent arms, stapling independent necklaces, whatever. That is really going to get you, make things all feel like they're connected into one piece as opposed to a bunch of different parts. All right, so the last thing we need to add in here now is the dragging. And so I'll go back to my puppet. I'll select the body layer or body group. and I'm going to do everything on the body group. So let's do draggable on his hand here, another draggable over here, and then let's draw some sticks. So we'll do one stick here, one stick here. I'm just giving him a really basic bone structure for his arms. All right, so now when I drag, it's dragging the hand as I would expect and not making it come apart, which is nice. Now there's a little bit of puckering here, I noticed, because he's got this shadow happening. The arm isn't really moving exactly like I would like. So I can do some cheating here. I can just draw the stick tool and say, hey, I want these parts to be a little bit more rigid on the sides here. And then when I go back, it's going to look a little bit better, barely. But ideally, I would want to make each of these arms independent on their own and then staple them to kind of the shoulder sockets. So if you look at the Wilk example character that I did for the most recent tutorial, that's how his arms are set up. And that also allows you, instead of everything being on one layer, where you run into issues like this, where the hand is showing up beneath the shirt, but in front of the pants, you can position them exactly how you want them. Put them in front of everything or behind everything to get whatever effect you want. So yeah, overall though, Mr. G is looking pretty good. Hopefully we fixed most of Bradley's issues, and hopefully what you saw today helps you with your own creations. Okay, let's take a look at another character a user sent in. This comes to us from Vince Jordan, and he was trying to create a basic stick figure, but running into issues even with kind of this simple character. But it brings up some really interesting things. So notice, you're really not getting a lot of body movement here with the head as I move around. The arm is becoming detached, a few other things. So this originated from an Illustrator file, but I'm going to attempt to not touch the Illustrator file at all and do all the edits and fixes within Character Animator itself. So I don't know if it's going to work, but let's try it out. So first thing I do if I'm looking at a puppet and it's not bending or working the right way is I'll go down to this icon called Show Mesh, and that's going to show me all the triangles of how my character is bending and being created. Now, for whatever reason, this character's mesh is showing up as a rectangle around it, and that may not be what I want for this particular character. It feels like it's including some parts outside of my artwork that I really don't want. I want this to just be bending in my character's confines. So the way I can change that is with my top level here selected, I can go to Puppet Mesh and go to, instead of Auto, go to Contour. And see what that does? That's going to change everything to fit my, around the edges of my character as opposed to the entire artwork. And so that's going to look a lot better and probably get me more of the results that I want for this character. Now notice the arm was set to independent, so he added a plus in front of the arm here. And, that's going to make it independent, but to make it actually attached to everything else instead of floating by itself, I'm going to first staple it. So let's use the staple tool, staple it to the body here. Let's add a draggable point, and let's add some sticks in there as well. So 1 and 2. Now I also noticed that his top level here, whole package, is not warp independent, and I do want it to be warp independent. So I'm going to click warp independently over here, and that should be a lot better. Now, for some reason, that changed everything back to automatic, so I'm going to just switch that back to contour to get that back. All right, let's see if this is helping at all. Okay, so yeah, my character now, at least the arms and things are moving with it, and let's see what happens when I drag. All right, that's looking a lot better. So the only thing I have left to do, I think, is to add the fix points by selecting the body, and I'm going to add a fix point here and a fix point here. And notice how the triangles kind of change and bunch up or move around as you add fix points or sticks or dangle points. That kind of is a nice visual indication of how the bending of your character is going to be affected as you move things around. So I added 4 fixed points to this character, just kind of on his legs to really pin him down to the ground. And let's see if this is looking good now. All right, that's looking pretty good. I kind of want the head to have a little bit more sway over, it's kind of feeling like it's in one position up here. So I'm going to go to the face and change head position strength to something like 400. And now look what's happened. So as I move around, now I have a lot more, the head carries a lot more strength over where the body goes. And so I like that a little bit better. So, play around with these parameters over here, these face parameters, and see what works for your character and what you're going for. But overall, some quick fixes that hopefully help Vince with his stick figure and hopefully help you guys with your own creations. So I've had a request from several users to walk through a Photoshop character, and the latest tutorial I did was with an Illustrator character for the Preview 4 changes, but a lot of people have asked me to do it with Photoshop as well. So I'm just going to really quickly run through a really simple character, and hopefully this helps you. So quickly, I'm going to make 3 groups. I'm going to call this plus example, and then move these other 2 groups inside here, and call this one head, and call this one body, setting up the basic structure. Now in the head group, I'll move this background layer and I'll just create a circle here. Let's make it a purple circle and something like that. Looks pretty good. It's kind of a bluish purple. And let's make it a little smaller and move it up here. I'm just going to call this BG for background, and let's then add some eyeballs. So I'm going to create a new group. Let's call this left eye, and the left side, I mean the character's left side, not the left side of the screen. We will make this white and move it over, and I'm going to call this left eyeball, and in doing so, that's going to say the confines of where I want my pupils to be constrained to. Now I'm going to duplicate that by pressing Command J on Mac, must be Control G or J on Windows hopefully. And I'm going to change that color to black. And let's make that a little bit smaller so it can move around a little bit more. Okay, and we're going to call that plus left pupil because I want that to be independent and be able to move on its own. And then the last thing I want to do is create a blink layer. So let's make a new layer. And let's make just a square that goes across, a rectangle that goes across like that. I want that to be black. And we will call this left blink. Okay, so now I've got an eye with all these pieces inside of it. For the sake of time, I'm just going to duplicate this blink layer, move it above the left eye, move it up, and that will be my eyebrow. And let's just call that plus left eyebrow. Because again, I want that to move independently. And now I just kind of want to duplicate this and move it over and just change everything to right instead. So we'll call this right eye, we'll call this right blink, we will call this right pupil, and we will call this right eyeball. And the eyebrow we'll call right eyebrow, plus right eyebrow. All right, so now I've got the basic structure of the eyes and the head. And now I want a mouth, so I'm going to open up Stanny, which I know is called My Photoshop Puppet. So let's open that up. I've got my mouth down here. I'm just going to drag that into my example and right here. And it put it into my body, but I want that to just drag up in front. That's a little small. I think I've got a higher res version somewhere with another character, but just for the sake of time, I'm just going to scale that up. And to scale things up and down, I'm just doing free transform, which is Command T on Mac or Control T on Windows, or you could go into here, edit free transform, and that's just letting me move things and make it bigger or smaller. Okay, so now I've got a pretty good head structure. So let's move into the body, and I'm just going to create something really, really basic here. Let's do a body like this. I'll make it slightly darker. We'll just call that body. Actually, let's just for the sake of differentiating it from the body group, I'll call that BG for background of the body. And then I'm going to make some independent arms. So let's call this left arm, and I will make a stick that comes out, or a arm that comes out like that. I want it to match this color. Okay. And I'll kind of do it like that, going straight out. And I want this to be independent, so I'm going to put a plus in front of that. And then I want a little circle for a hand. So let's go to the ellipse tool and do something like this. That looks good. Let's make it the same color as the skin. Move it behind and move it over like that. Okay, now we've got a pretty good left arm. I'm going to copy this, flip it over, and use that as my right arm as well. So again, I'm just going to change left arm to right arm just to differentiate it, although that's not really necessary because it's not tagged. But all right, so now I've got a really basic character. I kind of want to squash his head a little bit. I don't like how oblong it looks, so let's just do something like that. Okay, that's looking a little bit better. And now let's go to Character Animator. So inside Character Animator, let's import file, import, I did the shortcut Command I. This guy's name was example. Let's bring him in. And here he is in the puppet panel. And before I even add him to a scene, I know there's some stuff that I want to do with him. So let's see, I definitely want him to be fixed on the ground. So, or his body, at least his torso, to be fixed down here. I'll just add a bunch of fixed points. I know that these arms I want to be stapled because they are independent. So I'm going to staple them at the edges here. And I will also add draggable points to the hands and draw in some sticks, a forearm and a bicep there. And I'll do the exact same thing for the left arm. Staple, draggable, add sticks. 1, 2. Okay, and then I think I might be in pretty good shape. Let's check it out. So with example, I'm going to click add to new scene. That will add him into this new group. He's a little bit too big, so I'm going to go to transform, scale, position Y to move him down a little bit. And now as I move around, he's moving. His pupils are moving around. The mouth is changing as I talk. The eyebrows are moving, although they're not tracked very well because I'm wearing a hat, and it's not the best. Okay, there we go. And then let's see how the dragon looks. There you go. So, very quick, less than 10 minutes Photoshop version of creating a character in Preview 4. All right, so that's it. Thanks guys so much for watching. If you have more issues, or you have a feature request or a bug report or something like that, the best place to post that is on the official Character Animator forums, which hopefully I have After Effects the URL right down there. But thanks so much for watching, and we will see you guys again soon. Thanks.